Hi everyone. Well, this video is representing the article I chose. It is the CLIL, a suit for all seasons, and I chose it because it presents a lot of things about CLIL. I'm gonna start talking about the definitions. The article presents lots of definitions, like six or seven, but I chose those three that I consider are like the most concise and more specific. So I'm going to start by reading the first one, which is a Kunan definition. CLIL is an educational path, more or less lengthy, characterized by strategic, structural, methodological choices that aim at ensuring a non-linguistic dual integrated learning language and non-linguistic content by students who learn through a non-native language. So this article presents clear definitions about what CLIL is. So this is one of the reasons why I chose it. Another important aspect of this article is the explanation of where does it come from. So the article gave us like summary about the whole history behind this term, behind CLIL. So it started talking about the 1928, where a conference on bilingualism was like held in Luxembourg. So this is where this discussion starts. It also talks about comments in 1984, and this part of the article talks about two specific terms, such as what is BICS, the basic interpersonal communicative skills, and what is CALP, which is cognitive academic language proficiency. So, I was super engaged talking or reading about the definitions that comments give us about those two terms and how he says to us that they are not independent competences. They need to be together in order to develop truly CLIL. So I wrote here that the former are connected to motivation, culture, and previous experience, while the latter relates to the language input. I'm also going to highlight that in this article we have like what do we have about research in terms of CLIL. So we have a lot of things, of course. This is just a summary, but I'm gonna like mention those two important parts. There are there are a few longitudinal experimental studies evaluating the effectiveness of bilingual educational programs, which says that we need to start um, doing more research in terms of this. And I'm also going to highlight what Lorenzo in 2007 says about the two potential dangers that we have when we are working with CLIL. So the first one is the limited development of language production skills, and the second one is a deficit in the learning of content. So what I like about this article is that it presents not only the dangers but also how we can like avoid them. So this is really interesting. I'm going to mention really quickly other important aspects. So, this article talks about what is not or what should not be CLIL. So, we have a long list about what should we do when we are applying this approach in our classes, and that's really engaging. Another aspect is when the article talks about the actors that we have in the learning process and how um, CLIL process highlight or give importance to the teaching or the teacher role. Another aspect is the methodology, content and results. And in the methodology, we have that this article tell us that this approach is by nature a dynamic approach. So we need to have an active didactics, interactive, and we also have an didactic which should be student centered. That's super important. And we also have another important aspect which is evaluation. So of course we should include in this content and language. We have an approach that is called content and language integrated learning, so we should take it into account those two aspects. um, the article also mentions fundamental choices that we should have when we are applying CLIL in our classroom. But well, I won't talk about a lot about that because this is just a summary. And as conclusions, I have that it is important to clarify teachers' doubts in order to achieve a correct implementation of CLIL. We need teachers that should be strong in content and also in language. Of course, we have that the evaluation needs to take into account both aspects, content and language. And as a final conclusion, it is mandatory to have a collaboration of the second language teacher.